welcome back to a brand new episode of the ToonTALK podcast brought to you by Magpie 24/7. I am joined today by Jay. How are you doing?
Ah, Normally I'm doing great, but the game yesterday is it's laying in my stomach.
I can imagine. And yeah, I mean, it's the exact same for me. We are going to talk about the Palace result from yesterday, which, I mean, there is a lot of stuff to talk about from that game. But what I firstly have to manage, or at least have to mention firstly, is that yes, we have been out for 3 weeks, I suppose it is now, with the podcast. The international break had something to do with it. I traveled to Berlin for a little while, so it was a very, very busy period. But as you can see, we are back with a bang, with a very new, aesthetically pleasing bang, in my opinion. So, be sure to let us know in the comment section below what you think of this new layout, if you like it, if you would like to see any changes. And without any further ado, this is the time where we do get into yesterday's really, really disappointing result. Before we talk anything about the football that was being played, what did you think when the starting lineups were released?
I thought it might be a relatively good lineup. I think I was a bit surprised about Murphy and Osula, but I always think that the manager is in charge of it, and the manager sees them playing every day maybe and talking to them, and he has his reasons. And I think Osula didn't prove him wrong with his goal. So yeah, it was a good lineup, I think. Yeah, it was a bit surprising that Visa and Voltemade were on the bench,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, I do tend to agree, especially when it comes to the striker situation, because we did spend over £100 million on two different strikers who neither of them started after a 3 week break, which is a pretty condemning place to be, in my opinion. Other than that, Louis Miley, made his return to the starting 11. Fantastic to see because, I mean, yes, he missed a large period of the season with a dead leg when reports should be believed. So that's a very strange one, but he is massively important for us. I heard the commentator yesterday's just mentioned that Louis Miley takes care of the ball so unbelievably nicely, and that is genuinely the exact way I feel about him. He is so meticulous with his passing, with his dribbling, gets out of tight areas really well. Like for example, Lewis Hall or Jacob Ramsey do really good themselves. He has that ability, but he is so strong as well. He has such nice passing. I think he's really, really well rounded, and I do think the best version of our midfield at this moment in time is Tonali, Miley, Bruno Guimaraes. A midfield three which we've seen way or not anywhere near as much as you'd probably like throughout this season. I don't know what your opinion is on that.
yeah, definitely the comeback of Miley is, especially while Bruno being still out and Joe Linton now being, I think, booked for the next two games,
Yeah.
um, with his yellow card yesterday. It's even more important that he's back and giving us a bit kind of stability and maybe a bit of creativity as well.
Absolutely, because he did provide the assist for the William Masula goal as well, so a fantastic bit of contribution from him on the attacking side. I think the fact that he has played right back throughout some of the games as well this season means that he's shown us more versatility. It takes the pressure off of having to sign new right backs in the summer off massively, which is also a really, really big positive. But it also means his physical attributes are perfectly in order, which has to be the case if you want to be able to deputize at right back. But also his passing range yet again has been not necessarily upgraded, but more on display this season, and found a new appreciation for his passing. Because yes, he does possess some creativity. He also possesses the ability to be a more defensive-minded midfielder, that's why I think next season we probably should be looking to moving towards a double pivot of sorts, and I think a double pivot of Miley and a controlling six, or Miley and Bruno Guimaraes when you have a lot more of the position yourself, is a really exciting thing for us to look forward to. So fantastic times to see Louis Miley back in the starting 11. Another name that popped out to me was Jacob Murphy starting instead of someone like Anthony Elanga, for example. Actually, the only summer signings who did start this game were Malik Thiaw, who basically starts every single game for us, and Aaron Ramsdale. That's a damning indictment on our transfer business this summer too, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, definitely.
Mm.
But Murphy, I have to admit, he really surprised me that it surprised me that he played from the beginning. But as I said, we aren't on the training ground. We don't know the reasons for it. Yeah, Eddie Howe yesterday said he doesn't. What did he say? He doesn't line up after market value,
Yeah,
but for what he sees under
exactly.
the
Yeah.
during the weeks and the weeks without games, and yeah, we are not there. We can't
Mm-hmm.
really prove him wrong. I would say, yeah, everyone says this would be better. This maybe would be the better option, but I think he's not alone. Jason Tyndall and all the others, they have their reasons
Mm-hmm.
to choose someone like Murphy. He's a proven player, I think, and but it wasn't his best day yesterday.
Absolutely. I think that's very fair to say. I probably also think that the reason why we went for Jacob Murphy is a tactical thing, because when you saw that whenever we were out of possession yesterday against Palace, we were kind of lining out with a back five, and Jacob Murphy very much being a deeper defender than someone like Louis Miley was, for example, because Miley was taking care of that right hand side ahead of Murphy and Livramento, which meant we formed the back five. And it was actually very rarely that we saw Jacob Murphy being high up the pitch, or at least a lot higher than someone like a Miley or someone like a Livramento. So his first, not necessarily thoughts, but his primary instructions were defensive ones. That's very clear to see. And that's why it was also so baffling to me when Eddie Howe yesterday came out after the result and talked about him not giving the players the instruction to creep behind the ball with 11 men the second they get in front and just absorb pressure, because we know, one, in the Premier League, absorbing pressure is a very, very difficult thing to do because a lot of
Yeah,
teams just have a lot of different ways of scoring goals. But also, um, he says it's probably a mental thing, but then it's up to you as a coach to find ways that keep us at least somewhat in attacking in a consistent way whenever we get a lead. Because I mean, for anyone who didn't see the game yesterday, we took the lead yet again for the 1 millionth time this season, this time through William Osula and a Miley assist, and yet again, for the millionth time this season, we gave that lead away. That means it ended up as a 2-1 victory for Crystal Palace, thanks to a double from Mateta off of the bench. Palace, who played a midweek game in the Europa Conference League, got to rest Ismail Assar, Mateta, and Wharton against us, and still came away with 3 points. And for us, we have now dropped 25 points from winning positions this season, 5 more points than anyone else in the Premier League. And The Athletic yesterday made a table graph which showed that, and this isn't accurate because this never happens, but it is a good thing to give a bit of perspective. If we picked up the win in every game that we went in front and eventually ended up dropping points, we would be 2 points behind Arsenal. So there is no way we would actually be 2 points behind Arsenal, but what we would be is probably still in a Champions League race, and at the very least in a comfortable position to get any sort of European football, which at this moment in time we simply aren't. And that is the biggest takeaway from yesterday. We aren't close enough to European football, close as we want to be. Yes, it's still only 3 points to Conference League, 4 points to or 6 points to Europa League places, but it is 8 positions between us and those places. 8 or 6, whatever your goal is, Europa League or Conference League. Either way, from all of the teams who are still in contention, we are the lowest placed in the league table, in at 14th. So yeah, what do you make of all of that information?
Yeah, I think if you hear that it's only 3 points or 5, 6 points away, you might think, yeah, okay, we have 6 games left, it's manageable. But yeah, like you said, in the end, you have to see not only the points difference of 3 or 6 points, but you also have to see that there are seven different contesters as well
Mhm.
between you and those points you need. Yeah, so it's the 6, 7, 8 teams competing for 1 or 2 spots, and so it makes the doable 6 points or doable 3 points difference even harder if you see the table
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
if you see the other teams also competing for that 1 or that 2 spots.
Other teams who have shown a lot more credibility this season, who have shown a lot more consistency this season, because another thing that we gave up yesterday, if we would have won against Crystal Palace, which we didn't, so this isn't even a thing at this moment in time, that would have been the first time this season we won back-to-back away games. And we didn't win. So we haven't won back-to-back away games this season in the Premier League. That
I'm
is,
glad we're winning away games anyways.
yeah, that is awful. That is genuinely horrifying, and it leaves Eddie Howe in a very vulnerable place, doesn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately it does. So I think you know my on which side I'm standing, and I
Mm-hmm.
have to admit I'm standing there even today.
Mm-hmm. Which is Eddie Howe in, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Talk
but
to me.
I think I see all the other comments on the socials, and I can I can understand those people, and I understand their arguments, and I have to admit that they are not completely wrong, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I have one question. Do you think 11 grown 11 grown Premier League players earning millions a year, should they be able, without any manager, without any tactics given to them, should they be able to defend a lead 10 minutes ahead of the final whistle
Yeah.
in at least 50% of their games where they were up with 1 goal?
Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah.
So I see the people blaming Eddie Howe for several things. I cannot fully understand. Yeah, he's maybe changing or subbing the players too late. Yeah, bringing Elanga and Visa in 90+5. It's a bit. We can talk
Mm-hmm.
about it. Okay, no problem. But is he responsible for 11 grown Premier League players earning millions a week or millions a year? Is it his fault that they aren't able to play proper football 10 minutes and just defend a 1 goal lead in the last 10 minutes? That's embarrassing. It's if you look back, if you see where we dropped the points and how we dropped the points, there were so many individual mistakes. Like I don't think that Eddie Howe, where in halftime he talked to Botman and said, "Yeah, if we if it's tied in the end, just
Mm-hmm.
cause a ridiculous penalty
Yeah.
to give them the win." So
Mm-hmm.
he has his he plays his part
Mm-hmm.
he plays his part in all that stuff that happened over the complete season. I would say yes, but there are so many players who aren't playing at their best level and who let him, especially him, Eddie Howe, down.
Mm-hmm.
If you read on the socials and you read from reporters, they're saying, ah yes, this player and this player. They said Eddie Howe's the best coach in the world, the best coach they ever had. I think Ilanga said it.
Mm.
Eddie Howe's the best coach who ever trained him or coached him, and yeah, he's so great. We want to fight for him, and so on. And then you turn on the TV or go to London and visit the game yourself, and
Mm.
you get embarrassed again by the same players that are saying how great he is.
Yeah.
I think it's 50, 60, 70% of a mentality issue psychologically. It's
Mm.
hard if you're always dropping points and you know it's coming to crunch time and you know, oh fuck, normally we give the points away here. And it does something with you, it does something with the opponent because the opponents know they're dropping points every time when they're in the lead, so we won't give up even if it's 90 plus 5, 90 plus 6.
Mm.
We try and it it does something with you, I think. And but on the other hand, it's mentality. I think it's quality, especially not doing silly mistakes in the crunch time and just bring the game over the line. At least take the 1 point from a
Mm.
tire, but you can't lose it. You
Yeah.
can't lose the game.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head perfectly there. I am also still Eddie in, and that won't change, especially not during the running. I think we can lose all six of our remaining games, and I'd probably still be Eddie in because I do still think that there is a lot of positives to see. If you want to hear my full thoughts on why Eddie Howe should stay, I recommend going on the Magpie 24/7 YouTube channel and watching the Stay or Go video for the Newcastle United squad. But a very, very quick summary of that is that I think you are going to have a lot of competition this summer on the market for new managers. I think Eddie's tactics have worked in the past, and the things that haven't worked, he's shown a willingness to improve upon those things. And thirdly, like you say, the mental side of it is a side that very much can't be ignored. Because yes, Eddie Howe would have never instructed Sven Botman to start undressing Mateta in the box like he was doing. So that is on the players. That is completely the players' fault that they are giving away points there. And a lot of games come to mind where we've done the exact same thing. For example, Spurs in the league where we draw 2-all, that last minute overhead kick from Cristian Romero, uh, from to concede that goal off of him of all people is genuinely just a lapse of concentration, and it's nothing else. So those are
Yep.
problems that one aren't going to be fixed over a week or even over a 3 week period, however much we would have liked those problems to be solved, but also isn't something that I think is going to be solved unless we bring in some new players who change up the mentality, even if those players' attributes don't necessarily mean those things improve. But the fact that that player comes in, looks like he's going to improve that, and makes other players believe that Newcastle is a more solid defensive unit than we've seen this season, that will also just get us or help us get over the line more in more different games. Because last season this wasn't a problem at all. This was nowhere near a talking point. We actually saw out, I think, nearly every single game that we went ahead in. So it's completely changed this season, and I do think Eddie Howe himself touched upon a very good point after the game where he said that it's probably becoming a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy in the fact that at the beginning of the season the whole narrative was Newcastle United can't win any away games, so we continue to struggle for a very long time to win any away games, still sort of are, but at a certain point you start winning some of these away games, and then the narrative goes away, and eventually the trend goes away as well. That now has to happen with our defense because it's now 46, 47 goals conceded in 2026 alone. That's genuinely laughable performance from us, especially from our defense. And I'll be honest, again, I am Eddie in, but if we don't manage to get any semblance of European football, I think that's it for him. I genuinely do. I think the board will be looking to move on to a name which I've seen linked and I think I could see our board be very, very interested in is Enzo Maresca. So
Uh, I was expecting another name, but
what is the name you were expecting?
after the game, I read something about Iraola.
Okay, okay.
Um,
And what are your thoughts on both managers?
I would say Iraola. I think he's he has so many. He's like Eddie. I think he's also liking the style of play. Like he's he's playing
Mm-hmm.
the pressing system, and he comes from Bournemouth again. It's like a
Yeah. Yeah, that I can see. But I do
and,
think that one of the things that Iraola is very, very good at one of the biggest weaknesses in Eddie Howe is coaching his players to just find as many different ways of scoring goals as possible. That is something that Bournemouth is pretty good at. But I
yeah.
don't think he's an improvement on
And
Eddie Howe. That I agree with.
I think, in my opinion, these things don't go together. If people are saying, yeah, Eddie must go and Eddie out, and we need a big name, and then they're coming up with Iraola, who never won
Mm-hmm.
anything,
Yeah.
despite being like in Cyprian Cup or something like that. And yeah, he got up and promoted Bournemouth, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, he was the Rayo Vallecano manager, if I'm not mistaken. But I'll be honest, I do think Iraola is just going to become Athletic Bilbao manager over the summer because that seems to be his level. Ernesto Valverde has left; they haven't had the best of seasons, and he is Basque. So I do think that's going to happen. So I wouldn't worry too much about him.
yeah, and about Maresca, I think he's the one who learned with Pep, is he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe it would suit my idea of
And yeah,
being way more ball dominant and dominant in the whole game and
that it
being
absolutely would. And I also think he did a pretty good job at Chelsea before getting sacked. He, to me, is like the Pochettino sacking, where it's not a surprise that Chelsea went out and sacked him for the reasons they sacked him. But at any other club, you would have said this is really, really harsh.
yeah, that's right. I think he would be a good option, definitely the better
Hmm.
option than Iraola,
Yeah,
in my
agreed.
opinion. Um, but yesterday I read something really obvious. Be careful what you wish for. We saw
Yes.
Tottenham changing their manager
Yes.
and it working out very great, as we saw. Um, and yeah, you know what you have, and you don't know what you will get from another manager. It could be way better, but it could be maybe way worse. Um, I
Absolutely.
don't. So I don't think any manager would be way worse because after a summer with another big spending, um,
Hmm.
I think it wouldn't come out worse than 14th in the next season, even with a new manager.
Probably.
But I don't think we will will become 14th with Eddie Howe next season anyway.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I think
I do
what we
agree
should
with that.
invest in maybe is a really great psychological team for our
Hmm.
players.
Hmm.
I think, like you said, yeah, last season we always struggled on the road, and it was the same thing. It was the same thing. The players crawling into the bus, driving to don't know London, and always
Hmm.
they are you know in their head it's going like, ah, shit, we're on the road again.
Yeah, yeah, that's
We
exactly
we
it.
didn't we didn't win a single away game. I don't know if we can do it today. It's in your head,
Mm.
and you play like it. We saw it. We played so well in all these home games, and we were so freaking bad in all these away games.
Yeah.
That's just in your head, and it's the same thing. Like when did we have this great defense? Was it 2 years ago where we
Yeah.
had like 28
Hmm.
goals
It was the
conceded?
first time we qualified for Champions League, right?
Yeah, or 3 years maybe ago, or
Yeah.
could be. It's the same thing and vice versa. What happened there? Anyone knew they are such a good defense. They have so many clean sheets. They
Hmm.
don't concede many goals. We have to use our chances. It makes something with the opponents, and it also makes something with your own defense, knowing we are the freaking second best defense. Let them try. They won't get past. the same thing, like it boosts you when you have this flow, it puts you down if you have this, like we have now. We are always losing when we are in a winning position, and you need to break through this psychological, mentally error, or not error,
Mm.
but through this barrier,
Yeah.
and have to break it down. And I think 90% of these problems what we are facing since at least half of the season are psychological.
Mm.
And it's for, yeah, it's definitely the task for the manager to ensure all players are on their side, all players are free-minded. But I don't think that one manager can do it for, or even five managers can't do it for 20 plus players,
Mm.
and become go in deep into their head, and forcing to make there any structural differences. I think it's it has a reason why there are psychological people who studied for 5 plus years,
Mm.
um, and even become famous, or professionalized in the professional football area, or professional sports as in general. I think that's the main problem here, and it's not
Mm.
Eddie Howe.
I think so too. Yeah. I very much agree. I do think that changing Eddie Howe could have a beneficial influence on that particular side of it, because it might just be that a lot of the players seem to think that, or the psychological thing for a lot of players might just be that it's the same person talking to them every single day, the same tactics from the same people, and that just needs freshening up. That could also very much be the case. Again, I wouldn't um I wouldn't want to see this happen. I wouldn't want to see Eddie Howe leave, but I'm trying to play devil's advocate here and see whether or not it actually is a good option. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm still struggling to see it. The thing that keeps coming back to me is exactly what you said. Be careful what you wish for. It is so easy to get the appointment of a manager wrong. We as a club are still trying to define a philosophy. We've seen that our youth ranks are massively growing in quality. They've won, I think, an under 15s tournament recently, last week, if I'm not mistaken. So there
Yeah,
is definitely quality growing there and an identity growing there. It is then very important, if you are going to move away from your current manager, that that new manager is within the same identity. Because yes, you brought them up, Spurs. Um, Spurs went from, I mean, we could go over all of their last managers, but let's just real quick go over the last few. Roberto Da Gerbi now is very much again a possession manager who wants to play on transition, wants to have a fluid 11. His predecessor, Igor Tudor, is a defense first, hard minded um, coach with very strange principles in his back three, where he wants his center backs to be progressive. And his predecessor, Thomas Frank, is a very negative coach who doesn't want a lot of movement because he needs discipline in his players. And his predecessor was Angebal, which is the most insane heavy metal football you will ever see in the Premier League. So there is not a single ounce of cohesion in those decisions. Not a single uh, person there with a plan of what Tottenham Hotspur should look like, how the team should be playing now and for the future in order to build from there. They're just throwing shit at a wall and hoping at least something will stick. And that is one of the very dangerous things when it comes to searching for a new manager, because it is so much more important than just going out and searching for a new left back or going out and searching for a new right winger. This is a very important position, but I also don't think, like you said, he's doing too many things wrong. Yes, you can label the criticism on him that he doesn't necessarily know how to unlock a deep sitting defense, but I also don't necessarily think he has the players to unlock a deep sitting defense. So every argument has a counter argument, and I think we could sit here for another hour talking about whether or not he should be leaving. But at the end of the day, I think the mentality change could come from one or two impressive signings that change the way we play, change the way we think. And I also don't think we are too far away from being where we want to be again, which is at least qualifying for Champions League football. The one thing I would say, however, and that is the main reason why I see Eddie Howe leaving if we fail to qualify for any sort of European football, is that this is kind of a crossroads where we could, yes, miss out on European football again. And if we do, I think the chances are even likelier that we reach Champions League football the next season because we won't have any European football, so one game a week again, which is something that Eddie Howe thrives upon, or a different coach would probably like as well. But then we will again come in the cycle of having Champions League football for a season and having no European football for a season, and having Champions League and having no European football. And the reason why I think Aston Villa is making more progress at this moment in time than we are is because they don't have that season of complete nothingness in between. They have Champions League football, and then they have a different European competition, which means they still get to practice having 2 games a week. They still have to think about and build a squad that can compete with 2 games a week, whereas we are constantly switching between now our squad is too thin and we are laid bare and we have injuries everywhere to okay, now we're not going to be having any European football, so in order to keep all of the players happy with their game time, we're probably going to have to thin out the squad by 1, 2, or maybe even 3 names, which means you'll again face the same problems the season afterwards. So it's kind of a vicious cycle, which means to break that vicious cycle, I believe that getting any semblance of European football, even if it's just UEFA Conference League, is mightily impressive for us. I don't know how you feel about that.
If we can keep several players in, even if we will have a season without European football, like I think Bruno came up with he won't force a move away.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to read between the lines, so he won't force it, but it doesn't say that he won't leave.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. But if we would be able to keep players like Bruno or even Tonali maybe for a season without European football, I would take a season without European football rather than competing in the Conference League and flying
Selling.
around Europe
Mm-hmm.
for nonsense games.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would be an easy rebrand if we have a season without European football, like 1 game a week. You can work with the team during the week. You need 2 or 3 players less if you just have 1 game a week without talking about cup games. But
Mm-hmm.
so if you can keep players like Bruno and Tonali and Miley and who else we want to keep, then I would take with love a season without European football to really have this rebuild where we can build a strong unity, where you can build a team that really can compete in the Premier League. And then you have another summer, or maybe a winter, but then in another summer where you just need to add 2 or 3 good players to boost up the squad ready
Mm-hmm.
for then maybe a Champions League season again.
Yep.
And then you have the spaces where you can work on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
and
now, if we take this team or this whole team with the 20 players, if we take this to a Conference League or even a Europe League, we don't want to talk about Europe League, but if we take it to
mm-hmm.
to a Conference League season, so then we don't need 2 or 3 players, but we need 5 or 6 players to boost up the squad and
Mm-hmm.
compensating those players who might leave or who might
Yeah.
be sold. He could be sold. Um, and I think that won't happen, and in the end, we will just be the same like now. We will try to fill in gaps of players with like Miley needs to play on this side, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, Julinton has to help on the left wing maybe because you won't get these 5 or 6 or 7 signings you will need.
Yeah.
That so it could work out, but it's
Mm-hmm.
I think it's dangerous situation.
It absolutely
Even
is. It
like the
absolutely is.
manager, what you wish for, but
Mm.
because even Conference League, it gives you maybe a bit. It could give you silverware in the long run. Yeah, it could. But I think money-wise, it's nonsense, and
Mm.
even it could be that it costs more if you take in consideration that you need 2 or 3 or 4 players more in your squad, and all these travel costs and so
Mhm.
on. And
Yeah.
don't know if it's
Those are
if
very
it's
fair
really worth it.
points. Yeah, those are very fair points. I hear them all, and I can't say I disagree with too many of those. I think from a pure fans' perspective, I'd still like us to qualify, even if it was for the
Of course,
Conference League, because I mean that is a very big chance at a European trophy, and winning the Conference League then means you get to compete at least in the Europa League if Champions League qualification doesn't fall from there. And genuinely think even in the Europa League, especially another 2 seasons down this rebuild, we should again be one of the favorites to win it, and that is again another route into Champions League football, into becoming a more recognized powerhouse in European football, selling more shirts, having more commercial revenue, and thereby bringing in more different kind of players. So I generally see your points. I agree that for the squad and financially, it would probably be more interesting to not qualify for European football than to qualify for the Conference League. Europa League, that's probably a bit of a different story, but again, like we said, seventh at this moment in time looks very, very ambitious for us. I suggest we could just go over the final 6 games and predict the results, thereby predicting what kind of points tally we would finish on, and then we'll go from there. So, our first game is next week's home game against Bournemouth. Um, so it is at St. James's Park, which is good. That's positive. However, Bournemouth is a very difficult team for Eddie Howe to face, or it has proven to be a difficult opponent for Eddie over the last few seasons. What are your kind of predictions for that game next week? Or maybe before I ask for your predictions, what is the one thing that you really want to see in this game?
it's hard to tell because I don't think, like I said before, that there's one person, one manager, one player who's
Mm-hmm.
doing 100% wrong, but it's 10 things that are 10% off, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what us what leaves us on 14th place.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that Eddie will change his tactical system. We will stick with it the last 6 games, I think, because we
Mm-hmm.
didn't saw something different yesterday. Um, so I think we all hope that he changes something really up, like a 4-4-2 formation or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't see it yesterday happen, so we won't see it in the last 6 games, I think. Um, I just want to see a team who really wants to win a game and who really wants to win a game in the long run over 90 plus minutes. And I want to see a team that won't give up if we are in a lead, what is really, really strange, but we see it week
Mm-hmm.
in, week out. Um, I just want to see that mentality and that hunger or that coolness, that cleverness, just to bring a game over the line. If you are leading with one goal, it can't be that serious. That's it. It can't be that hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think the one thing I would like to see personally is Tonali, Louis Miley, and Jacob Ramsey midfield, because I mean,
Yeah,
ideally,
Linton
I'd
was
love it.
trash anyways. Yeah,
Yeah, I'd love it to be Bruno instead of Ramsey, but I think that will just be at least one game too early for him because he
yeah,
had a little setback over the last 3 weeks. Um, but Joe Linton, for one, is suspended now for 2 games, so he won't be featuring against Bournemouth either way. But I just have shades of Eddie pushing Voltemaden in midfield again, and I don't hate Voltemaden there as much as a lot of other Newcastle fans hate him there. But I do think both us and him have shown to be better in the number 9 or at least in the number 10. But I even still prefer him in at number 9. And I do genuinely think if you play the way that we played yesterday against Crystal Palace with the kind of fluid midfield and attack, then just have the instructions for your wingers, which would be Gordon and in this case Elanga for me, to run in behind of Voltemade instead of running on keeping the pitch as wide as possible. So that would be my tactical change. But as for that midfield again, Tonali as your six, I thought yesterday it wasn't necessarily his best performance, but he wasn't bad either. But I would instruct Miley to stay back a little bit more than he was against Crystal
Let
Palace.
Ramsey do the creative things.
Exactly. That's exactly it. I think Miley is perfectly capable of being a deep line playmaker, so passing from deep, and Ramsey has the physical attributes to run. He is a better dribbler than Miley is. And again, like you said, be the creative presence, be a box crasher. I think that could be really, really good for Ramsey. So that's the kind of midfield balance I would like to see. And if we go on and try that, which isn't outside of the realms of possibility for me, I'm going to say we win 2-1 against Bournemouth. What about you?
Do you think we're going into the lead or conceding the first one and turning the
I
game
think
around?
we go into the lead, but we do concede. They equalize 1-1, and I think about, let's say, 5 minutes before the end, we or 5 minutes before injury time, we find a 2-1, and then we finally see out a victory.
And when we break the curse, you'd say.
Yeah, exactly. I've got to stay positive here.
Let's hope for you being a wise man.
What do you
Yeah,
think?
just one thing that came into my mind when you ask what I want to see, I would
Hmm.
just want to see as well a team that just plays freaking normal football.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you noticed, just a short thing came to my mind.
Hmm.
How many players yesterday, I think all of them, took 5+ seconds to just take a ball into their feet and looking and
Oh,
thinking, what should I do with the fucking
yes.
ball?
Yes. That
There
is
was
doing
one
my head in.
situation where we just played proper football and it resulted directly into a goal
Hmm.
because we just played 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2 quick passes,
Yep.
crossed the ball in, and Ozula trying to do something on the ground and did it. But it was I think the only 10 seconds where we played proper offensive creative football with quick thinking and quick acting, and all the other times, the 95 other minutes, you saw players getting the ball to their feet, scanning the field, looking up, trying to do it. Should I do it? Maybe let's step on the ball. And those decision makings were so fucking slow yesterday. And if you just put this into a normal, yeah, bring it into a normal setting where we would just the thing that we did the last 2, 3, or 4 years, just try to play proper football. It would change up many things in the offensive game and this is decision making as well. Like we saw
Mm.
Gordon, um, so we technically broke down the defense, but Gordon refused to play the ball to Sula.
Yeah.
It could have maybe resulted in another goal, but that's another thing, and I won't get too deep
Hmm.
into this. But just the decision making and the time to make the decisions were both ridiculously off.
Completely agree. And I do think Eddie touched upon this himself. He talks about the players turning down shooting opportunities a lot, which is again comes down to playing easy football, playing not necessarily nice football, but playing the kind of football that every single player on your team can play instead of just the boring, same old go around your opponent from side to side and wait until your opponent generally makes a marking mistake, which then offers up some space. I'll be honest with you, the Premier League at this moment in time has such high quality that those mistakes are just fewer and far between, unless you're Newcastle United, of course. So that is starting to become very frustrating as well. I very much agree. I would love to see that as well. What is your prediction for Newcastle Bournemouth?
Normally, I'm so optimistic, but I
Mm-hmm.
I, I say I go with the controversial one. I would say we end up tying 1-1.
Okay.
going
I'll.
into the lead and conceding in 90+3, but at least not giving the
Mm,
game away completely, but
okay.
securing 1 point.
Okay.
And then we sit here and say it's improvement from last week.
Shamelessly claiming improvement. I completely agree. Then our next fixture, and I mean, if you're right, and I've written down your prediction and not mine because I'm not too confident, unfortunately. The next week is away at Arsenal, away at the Emirates. Now, Arsenal are beatable at this moment in time. They
We
look
will win
like,
this.
yeah, they look like they are
I say we
wobbling,
win it.
and one of their biggest problems at this moment in time is teams pressing them when they are trying to build up from the back and creating goal scoring opportunities against the deep sitting defense. So that maybe is one of our weak points as well. But I do tend to agree with you. I think we have a very big chance of going to the Emirates and winning, which is why my prediction is going to be a 2-all victory. Yeah, 2-all for us.
I will stick with it. That's it would be so typical, tying to Bournemouth, winning two with a clean sheet against Arsenal, losing
Absolutely.
again at home versus Brighton. That's the Newcastle United way this season.
And then
Like winning in Arsenal, winning in Chelsea, and then losing in
exactly.
Palace.
Yeah. It again, it is a mental thing. It is players finding the mental strength to get themselves up for certain games and then not turning up for others, and that must be so unbelievably frustrating if you're Eddie Howe as well, because yeah, like you said, like we've been saying for a long time, in these games where we do disappoint, tactically there's not a lot of difference going on from the games in which we win against Man United, Chelsea, for example, City in the beginning of the season. So yeah, after Arsenal, it is our other bogey team apart from Bournemouth. It is another home game, so that is positive, at St James's Park against Brighton. Brighton is another team like Bournemouth, but a bit better probably this season, who still are in European contention. They are set on 46 points. They just won against Burnley this weekend, which is whatever. Um, Brighton seems to be a team we massively struggle with often, so I think I'm going to go for the Bournemouth result and just go for a 1-all draw again. What do you think?
Yeah, could be. I don't see us winning there. I
It is
think
it is at St James's Park. Mm.
I will, yeah, I meant the game,
Yeah, oh
but
yeah, yeah.
you're right. It doesn't matter. I just look over the last games directly versus Brighton, and the last time we won was 2023.
Yeah, but that was a pretty convincing win, wasn't it? 4-1 or something, if I'm not mistaken.
It was we won 2-1, but it was the Premier League Summer Series. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, but it was a 4-1. Yeah,
Yeah.
in May as well
Mm.
was a 4-1 win, but it's 2 years ago, and since then we struggled
Yeah, we
a
absolutely
lot.
have. We do struggle with the Yankuba Minte as well, which is painful.
No, that's
Mm.
correct.
So does that mean you're following my draw, or you're even going
Yeah,
with a loss?
I don't want to be too pessimistic, so let's go with the draw. Maybe
Okay,
1-1, maybe two
okay.
two.
Then
But
match day
yeah,
36, so three more games to go. We travel away to Nottingham Forest. Now this should be a very winnable game. I think our record against Forest is pretty fantastic. Even last season when they had a good season, we won both games. So I'm saying we win 3-1 away at, what's Forest Stadium called? The City Ground? Is that Forest?
um,
I think that's Forest.
should be. Let me think. Yeah, City Ground,
Okay,
Nottingham. Yeah,
yeah. So 3-1 away at the City Ground. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that prediction?
another clean sheet with 2-0 for us.
Okay, okay. Then we have two more games to go to wrap up the season, and if I'm not mistaken, they are two very winnable games. Here they are. We start off with a home game against another relegation threatened side, which is West Ham.
Needs to be a 3-0 win.
Absolutely, and I also think that West Ham by then will probably be about safe because they were really impressive yesterday against Wolves, and I think the only side that could really threaten the dream that would be Tottenham's relegation is Leeds at this point, which I would find very disappointing. I quite like this Leeds team. They offered us probably our game of the season in that 4-3 win at St James's Park with Harvey Barnes' very late winner. So
Yeah.
yeah, 3-0. I'm following you on that one. And then our last game of the season, I'm going to put down as a win as well. We are traveling away to Craven Cottage to face Fulham.
If we break the curse at least a little bit, then it needs to be a
Mm.
dirty 1-2.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think that's exactly the score we always seem to get against Fulham. It'll probably be Bruno Guimaraes as well, who scores an 88th minute winner because he seems to love breaking the Cottagers' hearts. So that would mean we gather um, 3, 6, 9, 12, 14 points from our remaining 6 games, which probably is still a bit optimistic, but it is not
It's
the
40.
the most difficult run in as well. I think the only games we're really genuinely nervous about is Bournemouth and Brighton, which are both home games at St James's Park. Forest, West Ham, Fulham should be absolutely winnable, and I think Arsenal is one of these games where any points you get are bonus because you're not expected to get anything from that game, especially given they are in a title push. So again, 16 points, no, 14 points, which would bring us to 56, meaning to get Conference League, teams like Everton or Brentford can only win 3 more games out of their last 6. Uh,
Yeah.
Possible, but unlikely, right?
It's good. Yeah, it's good that we play against Fulham and Bournemouth and all
Mhm.
these
And
direct
Brighton, because they
contenders.
are still ahead of us as well.
Yeah, so they are like 6-point games.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said in the early beginning of the recording, it's only it might be only 6 points away from there, but you have 7 other contestants
Mhm.
who fight for the same spot, and it
Absolutely.
will be hard to do. You have to rely on. I don't think we will do it from our own power. So I
Mhm.
think we will need help from other teams in
Yeah.
the long run, in the end.
The teams above us who are a possibility or at a possibility of being overtaken by us. So I'll go up to 6 points ahead because then there's a gap between fifth and sixth, which makes it 10 points ahead of us, and that's just too much to make up at this point. So
Yeah,
those teams would be Chelsea, Brentford, Everton, Brighton, the Scum, Bournemouth, Fulham, and Crystal Palace. So we have to take all of those teams into account. Now I think Crystal Palace, probably even still Fulham, and the Scum are all teams I would call out of the reckoning. Then Bournemouth, I think, are still pretty good because they are like on an 11 game unbeaten streak. Yes, about 10 or 11 draws in there, but still an unbeaten streak nonetheless. Bournemouth, Brighton, Everton, Brentford, and Chelsea, I think, will be competing for those 2 Europa League and 1 Conference League place. If you
yeah.
had to put your money where your mouth is, what 2 teams do you think will qualify for Europa League? What team would qualify for Conference League? And what league position do you think Newcastle United end up in?
So I think Chelsea and Liverpool will.
Liverpool is already in the top 5, so Chelsea would then be 6th, and then there's another
Yeah,
team that
but Chelsea
finishes.
could Chelsea overtake Liverpool?
I mean, they could.
Maybe.
It's still
Yeah.
they're
So
4 points behind
yeah, but
Liverpool.
one of them will take
Yeah,
the
5th.
first Europe League spot.
5th is Champions League still.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
either Chelsea or Liverpool will be
Yeah. I'm
6.
sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So one
Yeah.
of them, well, I would say Chelsea, of course,
Mhm.
if Liverpool don't bottle it in the end.
Mhm.
So Chelsea will take the first spot, and I might see Brighton having a good run.
Mhm.
Like they won 4 out of their last 5 games.
Mhm.
Um, if they can continue, I would have them on my paper
Yeah.
for the second spot.
And for the Conference League place.
I think it will be then Brentford,
Yeah.
Everton, and Sunderland competing.
Uh-huh.
But I just saw that Crystal Palace has one game more to play.
Yeah, but
They're
against City. So,
yeah, okay. And so let's don't take it into
yeah.
account.
Yeah, it's for the Carabao Cup final, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I see. Yeah.
So
So
who is the
I'm not
team
that
that
confident that
finishes?
we really do it in the
Hmm.
in the long run.
Me neither, to be honest. I'll say
There's a difference between what we hope for and what we really
absolutely,
believe in, maybe,
absolutely.
or in what is realistically. Just because of all the other teams always also bagging in points in the
Hmm.
next weeks, and even if we take these 14 points, we have to see if it's enough or
Agreed.
if not.
And let's also be honest, right now we probably don't necessarily deserve European football either, especially ahead of teams like an Everton, a Brentford. My predictions are going to be that Chelsea and Everton end up in the Europa League spots and that Brentford runs away with the final Conference League spot, leaving us ninth and heartbroken for the end of this season.
Could be.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to this prediction or to our breakdown of what the final run-in is going to look like for Newcastle?
I think we just try to predict it, but it's with 7, 8 teams competing for 1, 2, 3 spots maybe, uh,
That's really difficult, yeah.
and those teams always also competing against each other,
Hmm.
other in the next week. So
Yeah,
there are so many possibilities.
that is maybe a final, a last thing that could be really fun is just talking or mentioning the fixtures that still need to happen between clubs that are competing with one another. For example, next week, right before Newcastle Bournemouth, it's Brentford against Fulham. So that's a really good fixture for us to look forward to. Everton have the Merseyside derby next week, so that's also a really big one to look forward to. Um, the week afterwards, um, Fulham and Villa, not necessarily two teams competing for the same thing. So, but then it's still teams like Brentford having to travel to Old Trafford. Bournemouth playing at home to Leeds. That's not necessarily too difficult. Bournemouth and Palace still face each other in round 35. Brentford and West Ham play against one another in the same round. Fulham has to go to Arsenal in that round. In round 36, it is games like Crystal Palace Everton, Fulham versus Bournemouth, us against Forest. So that is a week. And Brentford have to travel to Man City that week. So that is a week where we can do some nice damage in the league table. Second to last week of the season when we host West Ham, Bournemouth face Man City. Uh, Brentford and Palace face each other. Everton face the Scum. And then in the very last week of the season, so the week where we are facing Fulham, our direct competitors Everton might have an opportunity to relegate Tottenham Hotspur at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Brighton face Manchester United. Brentford face Liverpool. Crystal Palace face Arsenal. There is not a single easy fixture in the last round for a competitor of Newcastle United's for Europe. So
So
actually, very last second, I will change my prediction, and I'm saying that we finish 8th ahead of Brentford in the Conference League place. Let's get it. Let's get in.
so
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 a
just as
successful podcast after all.
just as a quick summary, we just need to hope on 2 things. If there are teams between 7 and 13 playing against each other, we just have to hope for a tie. And if they are playing, if teams between 7 and 13 facing not each other, but facing teams from 1 to 6, then we just have to hope that they better them.
Exactly.
Um,
That is
and
exactly
all
the
these things
case.
have to come together, and we just need to back in points for points, week in, week
Exactly.
out.
In other words, the last 5 6 weeks of the season are going to be a generational hate watch.
Yeah, and I hate it. I hate it. It will be there will be all these calculating things
Yep.
every weekend after every game. Yeah, okay, they played like this, so if we take 3 points next week, then they will maybe drop 3 points against Arsenal, and all,
Exactly. Exactly.
all these mathematical things will happen week in, week out.
I am already looking forward to it. And that's why the business end of the season is the very most exciting part of this season.
Definitely.
Jay, I would really like to thank you for taking the time to record with me this week, even though it wasn't necessarily too positive of a result to talk about. I think we still made it an enjoyable episode nonetheless.
We end up with good mood, and
Absolutely, absolutely.
oh, we can give it back to all the viewers and listeners.
I hope so too. If for anyone who has viewed or listened to this at home, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel if this was on YouTube. Leave a comment as well with the prediction of where you think Newcastle United will finish this season. If you listen to this on Spotify, make sure to leave a 5-star review as well. Head on over to all of our other social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. It's all Magpie 24/7, and give us a follow over there as well. We would like to see you next week for a new episode, and for now, have a good one.